Let's go ahead and get started. All right. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon if you're joining us from across the pond. My name is Marcos Duran, and I'm so excited to welcome you, everybody, to day 2 of this incredible Mar Dreaming Conference. Make sure you grab your next cup of coffee, tea, water. Hey, Joe, Austin, Texas here too. We're about to get started. So, all right. All right, cool. Everything's working. Well, good morning. My name is Marcus Duran, and I am part of the Mar Dreaming team here at Mar Dreaming. I am also marketing champion and a user group leader here in Austin, Texas, and I will be your host today. Let me make sure that we change this a little bit. Let's see. Cool. That looks great. All right. Well, yesterday we went ahead and we kicked off 3 amazing days of incredible sessions on thought leadership, Salesforce, and most importantly, marketing. Year after year, we help more and more customers, partners, marketers, and Salesforce users grow through these 3 days of intense learning and networking. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. Regardless if you're tuning in for just an hour a day, or if you're tuning in throughout the 3 days of the conference, welcome once again to Mar Dreaming Day 2. Now, before we get started, please help me and let's network through the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. Use your favorite GIFs to express how excited you are for Day 2. Do the works. I want to personally thank everybody who's joining us from Australia, from India, the UK, Mexico, and of course, everybody that is tuning in today, wherever you are, regardless if you're joining us asynchronously or live today. I also want to thank our incredible sponsors. We have Circontis, Salesforce, Stencil, PFL, Gridmate, The Spot, and Fionta. Stencil has a session today, so does Salesforce, so make sure you check those out. There are going to be incredible sessions with some hot tips to make sure that you are making the most out of your marketing. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move on with some quick tips. So if you haven't joined us this week yet, and this is your first day, again, welcome. Here are just some quick reminders and tips for a best experience across Mar Dreaming. So we are on a platform called Goldcast. You may have seen it from the emails that you were getting this morning and throughout the week. Make sure you're not running any large apps. Things like Zoom, Photoshop, anything that's on your computer that could be hard on your processing. Make sure you minimize those while you're watching us. If you are somebody that thrives on having 20, 30, 40 tabs, this is not the day for that. So please keep your tabs at a minimum, or pull us up on your phone or on another device. If you're using Safari or any other browser that isn't Google Chrome, we do recommend for best viewership to check us out on Google Chrome. And lastly, of course, check your Wi-Fi connection. And if you are normally in a VPN, this may be the time to try to figure something out, just again, so you can get the best experience. All right. We do have some additional housekeeping items that we're going to talk about today. You may have seen these yesterday. While most of our sessions will be recorded and available on demand starting essentially early next week after the event is done, we do want to continue to show up live and show up hard. The reason for that is we are giving some prizes away throughout the week. At the end of the session, I'll actually be giving away a couple of prizes. So make sure, again, you keep that chat going, throw questions as we discuss different topics with our panelists, because you could win one of these Black Trailblazer hoodie. Next, we do have our agenda. So if you go to the agenda and you go in there, you'll see 4 tracks: account engagement, marketing cloud engagement, data and analytics, and what's next in mobs. Want to remind everybody that you can go across tracks. You can build your own custom track. The data and analytics and the what's next in mobs do have other sessions that talk about account engagement, aka Pardot, or marketing cloud. It's just the topic is going to be more focused on like strategy, things like that it versus a hands-on like in the product session. So keep that in mind. Make sure you check all those out. And then lastly, we do have a session today, the Marketing Cloud Roadmap. That's around lunchtime for those of us in the US. That session will not be recorded. We will be sending out a quick reminder a couple of minutes before, so you join us live. But that's going to be one of those sessions that you could get an opportunity to win, again, one of these Black Trailblazer hoodies. And Danielle Grau and PJ Nix from the Salesforce team will have some really meaty updates on the roadmap for the products. Lastly, we do still have Genius Bar appointments for today and tomorrow. So if you are a Salesforce user and you're stuck on any issues with Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, account engagement, or anything in between, show up for a quick 20-minute appointment. We'll make sure we guide you, and you're going to meet some of the greatest Salesforce experts there. So again, free 20-minute appointments throughout today and tomorrow. Make sure you take advantage of it. All right. So today we have this really great panel that we're going to be focusing on growing together through a community. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and call to the stage our panelists. So if you guys can join me on stage, please do so. All right, and I'm just going to briefly go through everybody just to make sure. So we'll have Jacob Catalano, Sara Hernandez, Cara, Clanton-Pope. We have Ambre, Juryea-Amole. We have Brian Roff, and then we have Nick Kanthadai, who's going to be joining us today for this session. So welcome, everybody. Good morning. And nice, bright and early, because we're all in East Coast and Central, so nice and early. Thank you all so much for joining us. Before we get started with everybody, just kind of want to bring this up. The session title, right? Growing together, building together, shaping the future of marketing. So community. Last year, before we dive into our panel last year, you may have joined us for our panel discussion on finding your tribe. That was one of our opening keynotes, and it was managed by our CEO of Sercante, Andrea Terrell. This year, we are going a little bit deeper into the aspects of how to grow together as that tribe. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, you can watch it on demand after this year's session. We'll be sending out an email about it. And so, again, we want to talk about how to grow together as this tribe and the importance of community as we continue to experience rapid growth in technology. So things like GBT, AI, and of course, product changes across the Marketing Cloud suite, Salesforce, etc. We have seen so much from the community, Salesforce community this year around AI, as we have all tried to dive deep into getting our hands dirty and coming up with new ways of utilizing technology and building on each other's ideas and solutions. So if you are on Reddit, the Trailblazer community, if you're part of the Kardashian group or the How to SFMC group, or even the Salesforce Ohana Slack channel, you see that people are consistently asking questions and we're being helpful of each other and making sure that we're building on each other's knowledge. I wanted to just bring up a little something. So throughout this year, I've been graced or lucky enough to be able to attend a few Salesforce centric events like Connections earlier in the spring, where I met some of our fabulous speakers from this year. Dreamforce, just I think a month ago. It feels like it's been way more than that, but that, and then also a few dreaming events. And I just had a couple of thoughts going through my head. So things like, what if we didn't have this amazing community to bounce off ideas, right? How fast would we, even within an organization, let alone the community, how would we adopt new tech? Where would we be today in terms of apps that can integrate with Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, if people didn't really talk to each other and have like a community to share? And lastly, would we have seen the growth that we have seen this year, or in general in our ecosystem without community? So I think, a lot of these questions, we probably don't think about them as much. Heavily focused on the community. So these are things that I'm consistently think about and just really appreciate the concept of community. But of course, it's being rhetorical questions. We all know that change doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? But for many of us who are perhaps working from home, or maybe you're just a team of one, but you are in the office, right? In your marketing team, networking and just getting involved with communities can be challenging, right? And it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I'm going to go to a user group meeting, right? Maybe you don't even have a user group where you're at, right? Or it's an hour away or 2 hours. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about: community, ways to get involved, regardless if you're in a smaller community or if you're in a big city, maybe New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Austin, Texas. But yeah, so as we talk about today, we'll hear from throughout the conference from keynote speakers, community speakers. We'll even hear from Salesforce about how community change cannot happen without each of you. So community for sure has become an integral part of the growth in the tech space, and we just want to make sure that even within the Salesforce ecosystem, that we're continuing to drive innovation through community. Without each other's perspectives, ideas, and skills, progress stands still. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited to dive in with our panelists today to hear a little bit more about how they got started and where they are today in terms of their role, and how has community essentially influenced the way that they have grown throughout their career. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the screen here for a hot minute while we go through our panel. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me stop sharing. Now we're all here. Welcome once again, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and start with Ambre. Ambre, your background being in content marketing, why don't you tell us a little bit about just a quick intro and how you got started in our ecosystem?
Okay, so I don't come from a technical background. My background is more writing. I spent my first 5 years after college working for a communications consultant doing writing and editing for enterprise companies. It was a remote job. It was awesome. I had my first baby during that time. And then I ended up taking a job on a college marketing team after that. But that job was in the office, on site, 9 to 5. And during that time, I had my second baby. So while I was working there, I didn't have an office and I had to pump. If you know, you know, I had to pump in bathrooms and just wherever I could. And it just wasn't working out. So then I saw a job ad pop up for a Salesforce consultant that was looking for somebody with a writing background. And it was a 100% remote role. So I jumped on it. And while I was working there, we migrated from HubSpot to Pardot. And during that whole process, I got to know the spot and I started to read Andrea's content on the spot for Pardot. And it was super helpful in teaching me, you know, how to use this tool, how to migrate everything to it. And during that time, I also got my Pardot specialist cert. I keep disappearing. So after I got my Pardot specialist cert, I saw an ad pop up, you know, that Sercante was looking for somebody to come and lead the spot, and I jumped on it. So that's how I ended up in the ecosystem and on the Sercante team. And then that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Amber. Let's see, who can we go to next? Jacob, are you ready? I'm going to ask everybody the same question just so we can get a little bit about everybody's background, and then we'll go into some deeper questions. So Jacob, go ahead and kick us off.
No, absolutely. So I got started in the ecosystem younger than most. And I'm very, very grateful and lucky. I acknowledge my luck in that regard. I was a sophomore in college. It was required in my degree plan to get an internship. So when I finally got one, I was just the data guy. I was going into Excel lists and cleaning up data basically before it went into Salesforce so that there weren't errors inside of the database. And finally, my VP of marketing came up to me and said, hey, we use Pardot, we use Salesforce, we don't have an admin, we're a company of 30 people, are you interested? And from there, I was 19 and hungry and just excited to learn more about something inside of a job that paid me money. And so I took it, I ran with it and fell in love with it. I've learned more in my now 11 years doing Salesforce work about the marketing ecosystem than my degree has ever taught me. And I'm just very lucky to have been a part of this community for a very long time and kind of learn so much from so many people that, again, in a classroom, I never would have learned some of this stuff. So I'm very, very excited to be here talking with so many others from the ecosystem and learning about their journeys.
Yeah. Christy in the comments says, how fortunate to be in the right place at the right moment. 100%.
I fully acknowledge I got lucky. Not a lot of people have the same situational opportunity, and I recognized that and I jumped on it immediately.
Yeah. I remember when I got started, I signed up to be a WordPress developer, and I was supposed to support like a marketing team. And then a day, I didn't really know much about Salesforce. I knew the name and I had seen the CRM, but I had never been like a power user at that point. And then my first day, they gave me CRM access and Pardot access, and they're like, "Cool, this is going to be your job now." I'm like, "Cool, I didn't sign up for this, but let's roll with it and see what happens."
Yep.
So sometimes those opportunities don't look like opportunities, but you know, grateful.
I had the opportunity of going from Pardot to HubSpot back to Pardot because of company decisions that were above my head, but being able to learn all these different platforms and see how they all do similar things, but some are just more powerful than others, and kind of get that insight that I just, again, you never would get that in the classroom.
Right. Thank you, Jacob. We're gonna go ahead and go into Sara. But before we do, if you're hearing this story and something is resonating with you, feel free to throw questions for our panelists in the chat or in the Q&A tab, and we'll make sure we embed them into our presentation as we go. So thank you again. Let's go ahead and hear from Sara.
I actually studied Spanish in college, and I had full intentions on being a Spanish teacher or living in like Honduras and teaching English, and that was my path. I was so sold on it. But I needed a job in college, and my university offered an internship program with our local global manufacturing company. Shout out to Southwire Wire and Cable. And I was like, this could be so cool. Like, what if I get to work as an expat and they want to send me to like all these different countries and I can learn, different languages, different cultures. And they were like, actually, you're going to get placed in digital marketing. And not going to lie, it was initially a very big letdown. But again, like 18, 19, so naive in college. But I ended up falling in love with digital marketing and just the whole community aspect of marketing as a whole, and getting to talk with customers and getting to build out content. And then when it came time to graduate, they're like, okay, we can offer you a job, but only if you agree to learn and execute this thing called Pardot. And so that's how I got started in the ecosystem on the Pardot and email marketing side. And what ended up happening was I was able to unlock that feature called scoring and grading. And our manufacturing sales team at the time thought that was so groundbreaking. And it really was for the company. So seeing how that could unlock just this line that was once there, that wall between marketing and sales, that's what made me fall in love with Salesforce and what's now account engagement. And I haven't looked back. So I work in consulting now. And that was really the draw for me, was being able to unlock that sales and marketing division that once existed, and just show like we have to work together if we want to be successful and truly drive revenue for companies we work for. And yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Revenue, for sure. For sure. That's the magic key, I guess. Cara, can we hear from you? I know you have a relatively interesting story here that you want to share with us about your career changes.
Sure. Yeah. So I always I give a joke here about like if you've met me or talked to me at all, I'm a talker. I don't stop talking. That's kind of my thing. But I actually was in underwriting and wasn't talking to anybody all day long, and I was miserable. And so I kept looking for a job. And funny enough, I made some connections of networking here in Atlanta and started at a little place called Sales Loft, how I got into technology. I was lucky enough to be number 15 and came in with customer success. And like I said, just fell in love with this world of, sales and marketing, and kind of jumped on this rocket ship that was really, really cool. But how I transitioned, funny enough, into Pardot is I joined the marketing team and was doing customer marketing, and we were using Pardot. Like I said, kind of fell in love with it so much that I joined the mothership and went to Salesforce underneath Pardot and was an advocate and Pardot architect for 6 years, where I fell in love while I was there. I'm kind of like, I guess, following like the tech high where, things you enjoy each and every day, and fell in love with B2B marketing analytics. So I kind of straddled this line of doing the CRM analytics world and B2B MA for marketers. So just like I said, kind of fell in love with that, and came to Sercante to keep pushing that love, if you will, out to the trailblazer masses.
That's awesome. And it's always really interesting to hear Lindsay's their origin stories, because a lot of times, like, I would never have pictured you in this, or like, how did you do something else before this? Like, I don't see you doing anything else. So that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing. Now we're gonna hear from a fellow user group leader. So I'm gonna kick it off over here to Brian to share his origin story as well.
Hey, thanks, Marcus. What's really cool is like as we're hearing all of these things, is there are a lot of common threads between what our experiences are. So there's like everybody has this aha moment where they fall in love with this thing that maybe was not what they expected to do, and then also part of that is being open to opportunities, and seeing seeing the value in this unknown world that you might be entering into. So yeah, I mean, I have an art degree. I have a fine art degree. And so like kind of far away. I honestly don't know what I imagined to do with that fine art degree, but it's a different story. Yeah, so like about 15 years ago, I was working at an ed tech company. And I was the operations manager, and we had an on-premise CRM called Sales Logics, and it was just old and tired and not looked after, and so we started going down the road to find a new CRM, and I was on this migration team, and we selected Salesforce, and I just was so struck by how great it was to use, what a great user experience it was. And I remember telling people, it's like you're doing your job in Google. I remember telling people that, like, because they were scared. They were scared of like what was coming, what's new. It's like, no, it's just like you're on the internet. It's in the cloud. It's like Google. And so yeah, so and then basically the rest is history from there. I was also introduced to the because I heard a lot of people in the Salesforce ecosystem were on Twitter. I went to Twitter. I had this amazing experience where we were looking for an internal accounting system in the cloud, and this was like when Financial Force was first out, and now it's Certinia. But and somebody sent me a message and said, "Oh, you need to talk to Gary Palmetier from Red Argyle. He just implemented this," and sent him a message. Like 10 minutes later, I was on a call with somebody talking about Financial Force. So this, like, you see this power of this community. But basically, I've been helping customers and colleagues as a consultant for the past 10 years or so, and loving every minute of it here.
Let me come off mute so I can actually speak. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, growing up, I still had a lot of movies talk about like the cloud, right? And like it being this really like mysterious place where like nobody really knows or can wrap their head around what's happening. So thank you for being a trailblazer, Brian, and showing your organization the light with Salesforce. We're gonna go save the best for last with Nick. So we're gonna go ahead and go with him, and then we're gonna dive into some other questions.
Good morning, everyone. You're kind of putting me on the spot there, Marcos. But thinking about fun degrees that didn't pan out, my undergrad was in mechanical engineering. So, as far away from Salesforce as you can imagine. But when you start, if IKEA furniture is really hard for you to put together, you kind of know that your mechanical degree isn't, what's going to help you out in life. So, fast forward to working at a software SaaS company in the implementation side. That's kind of my experience has always been implementation, professional services. And that company that I was working for used Salesforce for Sales Cloud to, track all your accounts and opportunities, using Service Cloud for your, customer service, internal, external tickets. And we were pretty power users back, I would say almost 10, 11 years ago. And being in professional services, we had to be in the tool. So you got trained on it. They're like, this is where you put all your notes in, get used to it, get trained on it. And I'm like, wait, this is really easy to use. It's very intuitive. Back when it was, classic Salesforce, being in implementation, being in professional services, I saw how easy it was to use and, just intuitive. And I was just able to, grasp it quickly. And fast forward, we started using Financial Force for time tracking and, looking through our pipeline. And overall, I just got hooked across these three clouds. I got hooked. Similar to Cara, I then joined the mothership. I joined Salesforce Professional Services for about 4.5 years. And one of my first clients was a nonprofit that was using Marketing Cloud, and they needed someone to come in, be a program manager, consult with them as they grew their Marketing Cloud stack. And next thing I realized, I'm like, wait, this is pretty cool. We're reaching out to customers. We're working on these intricate journeys, pulling in data from multiple systems. We're doing these welcome journeys. We're doing these targeted newsletters, audience segmentation, whatever, anything that was pretty cool, we were kind of doing it in there. And I was like, I really got hooked to Marketing Cloud. And, 11 years later, that's kind of where I am today. I left Salesforce Professional Services, moved to a smaller partner where I'm able to grow a team around Marketing Cloud, implementing Marketing Cloud, working with clients, whether they're brand new, coming off a different tool, whether they've been using Marketing Cloud for 2 years and want to get supercharged to that next level, or even larger enterprise customers who are probably using a different tool and now want to go pretty much, they're all in for Salesforce, multi-cloud implementations. And I think at the end of the day, I still have my degree certificate from my mechanical engineering degree. It's somewhere upstairs, but I'm more proud of my Salesforce certifications, 11, 12 years on versus that degree certificate. So, but happy to be here. It's been a journey.
Thanks for sharing, Nick. Yeah, I think, and Brian, you brought it up a little bit earlier, but like really hearing a lot of trends here on transferable skills, right? I think being one, how we had copywriters, we had people that were already in IT, but this was a new tool that they needed to learn, things like that. We're hearing it's never too late to have a career change, right? From doing something completely different into something else. We're hearing a lot of like, be willing to not only be ready for an opportunity. Some people, they've always done email marketing, or they've always done SEO, or they've always done whatever, and that's it, right? Like they don't want to do anything else, and that's totally okay. Like there's not shaming anybody, but sometimes when you're open to some other opportunities, you can definitely grow and thrive, continue to thrive in your career. So thank you everybody for sharing your origin stories. Nick, I'm going to come back to you now and ask you a quick question. Then we'll quickly go in with Sara to share maybe if she has any additional notes. But the question is going to be how has community helped you get to where you are, and what advice would you have for somebody who is maybe thinking about changing career from mechanical engineering to being in the IT side? What advice would you share with them?
Yeah. So as luck would have it, like I mentioned just a second ago, right? I kind of learned Salesforce right around the same time a lot of my past colleagues learned Salesforce. We all started using Service Cloud for our internal and external ticketing. We kind of started integrating our Outlook emails that we were sending clients with Sales Cloud. So I think the usual items like everyone else has probably already seen or used is, Trailhead, finding a study group buddy, which I think there are multiple different ways to do that, maybe within your company, which I think if you have 2 or 3 people within your company that are really interested in, say, Marketing Cloud, you can work with leadership and say, hey, can we all go for a joint training together? We'll all have a study group. Let's study together and pass the certification at the same time. Let's all sit for the exam the same day. I think that is an easy way to get in where you have people who are similarly focused as you, so you can kind of do that. Now, I am a little biased of Salesforce mothership. I did get a lot of that insider knowledge when I was there for a few years. But I think overall, trying to get buy-in from leadership from your company in how useful Salesforce is, and being able to work with your team members towards working for that one certification or 2. I think that's always the easiest path, path to try to get into the community pretty quickly, is finding people who like what you like as well.
think again that mute button. Thank you for sharing that, Nick, and I see it resonating with a lot of people in the chat. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being attentive. We're gonna shift to another question, and I want to ask Sara, like I mentioned earlier, how do you engage with the community, and in order to stay up to date in like all the latest tech trends that are coming up, and how do you see it continuing to evolve?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big social media girly, so I love following my favorite TikTokers and LinkedIn thought leaders. That's where I really stay up to date on not just what's trending in the tech space, but also what's trending in the people behavior space, whether it be, so I'm a people manager, so how people are looking for career growth and how people are making certain buying decisions, and then also what's coming next in the ecosystem. So those are my favorite place to look and just hear from colleagues and peers who are also in the community. Maybe it's not just Salesforce, but also just kind of the time of career life that I'm in at the time. I see it evolving on the tech side as our purchase behavior evolves. I think those go hand in hand. The more personal experience we crave as buyers and consumers, the more personalized options we're going to get on the tech side. We see it coming with AI. Tech is trying to help us get faster and more efficient with how we're approaching consumer behavior. And I think that matches with our like craving for that instant gratification on the buying side too. In addition to how like now we are trying to get, more social, more interactive with each other. We're going to see that continue to evolve on the tech side too.
100%. Thank you, Sara, for joining us. Social media. I think I get all my not all my news, but LinkedIn and TikTok. I see a lot of people on there, making a name for themselves for sure. So thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna move on. We're gonna be talking about evolving tech. So we have about 10 minutes left here in the session. How does community play into the ever-changing world of technology, and how does it help us? Where do we need to watch out? Jacob, this question is for you.
Perfect. I guess the way I kind of think about it, to piggyback on what Sara said a little bit, is that we as a community are sharing our insights back and forth to each other, and we are trying to help each other grow, whether it be through learning on TikTok, learning on the Trailblazer community, LinkedIn, learning from other people. We are the first people, the community, whenever companies are trying to evolve their tech, Salesforce is trying to evolve their tech, they come to the community, whether that's a select group of the community or a wider group of the community. And we just have to remember that we are a group of storytellers. So when we tell our stories to Salesforce, the mothership, when we tell our stories to the companies trying to evolve that tech, we have to remember that we're playing a part on how that technology is going to grow. We've asked for a long time around how do we get better insights from our data. So we got then predictive AI with Einstein and lead scoring, behavior scoring, and all these amazing things. And so it's just kind of remembering that we can foster the power for change in technology. The main thing to kind of, I guess, caveat to this is because there's so much we can do, it can seem a little bit overwhelming, and we can kind of get that analysis paralysis and have 1,000 tasks and just kind of keep doing the same old. So like I challenge people when we talk about the tech evolving, let's try to then evolve with that tech. We're giving that feedback as a community. Let's then take our own advice and implement that own advice and grow our strategy and grow our way we think of the work with the tech altogether. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can influence the tech. We just have to be willing to give that advice and take our own advice.
100%. It's always easier to give advice than to follow your own advice. So thank you for sharing that, Jacob. We have 2 more questions that we want to get through before the end of the session. So we're talking about how much like community can help drive ideas and tech advancements and those types of things. What are some ways, and I guess I'm gonna ask Ambre this so you're ready. What are some ways that you see the community showing up to help build new solutions and tools for the Salesforce community?
So kind of building on what Jacob just said, one of the biggest things that I see is not being afraid to share your secrets, because it's not a secret. And the more that we share our solutions and what we're figuring out the hard way, the more that the entire ecosystem grows together. And that's kind of like the whole idea behind the spot. And, we bring in all of these, like this huge diversity of voices. We bring in guest authors. We've shared solutions from competitors of ours, just because the more that we share these solutions, the more that the ecosystem grows as a whole. And also filling gaps. If you see a gap in the ecosystem, trying to fill it. An example of that is Marcos. Earlier last year, he led a Spanish Pardot bootcamp, because there is a language barrier for people in other countries who speak other languages, where they're trying to learn to use these tools, but there's a language barrier that's preventing that. Or seeing gaps in the ecosystem through the idea exchange, like going into the idea exchange and sharing possible ways that you could push the platform further by making these changes.
Yeah, that's right. I did do that. I forgot. Thanks, Ambre. Yeah, it's always a whirlwind. So thank you for sharing that. And absolutely, if you are not a subscriber of the Spot, you can find it on the Marketing Resources tab after the session. I have one last question I'm going to ask Cara and Brian, having to do with resources. So just as we're wrapping up here, we'll have a couple of announcements right after we're done with this question. But what are your to-go resources? And we'll start with Brian. What is the best resource for people who want to dive deeper into learning more about community, learning more about those products? What would you recommend, Brian?
Yeah, there are a lot of great things, a lot of great places to go. I mean, I love Slack workspaces. And what I love about this is that every group of enthusiasts, every little niche has their own place. And so there's things like How to SFMC, the Pardashians, Ohana Slack, the Architect Ohana, and then even Discord. So like there are great Discord groups about Salesforce. And what's awesome about this is it's like it takes the giant Trailblazer community and puts it into a much smaller context. And so highly recommend that. But there's great content on LinkedIn and newsletters. There's a lot to learn from. Cara, what about you?
I was gonna say I learned a lot through Trailhead. I know we say that a lot, but it's all these concepts that I kind of like cut my teeth on, for lack of better terms. I went through and did a Trailhead, which I think made a world of difference. And having the Trailblazer community to be able to ask questions to your point, Brian, whether it is through Slack or even just being able to post those. I know internally I would do that a lot. I would actually review those questions and help out in the Trailblazer community for Pardot. And so I think those are great places, even just to ask where to get started. There's tons of blog posts and YouTube videos and everything. It's just about having that question you're trying to dive into. It's a great place to start.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Cara and Brian. Those resources can be found on the Marketing Resources tab here in Goldcast. So feel free to head over there after this session. Thank you again, everybody, for sharing. So we're back here. I'm going to ask all of our panelists that they can head off the stage. But as they do, we do have a couple of announcements here with the last kind of minute that we have left. So let's go ahead and wrap up. So we want to thank again everybody for kicking off this amazing day 2 of Mar Dreaming. Here's a couple quick notes. So we have a few key sessions not to miss this today. We have the future of email marketing that I will also be emceeing a little bit later today. Right around lunchtime, we have the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Roadmap. Remember, this will not be recorded, so please attend. And then at the end, join us for the Mar Dreamings. We're going to see, talking about community building products together. This is where the best products are going to be at. So make sure you come and join and hear those stories. Did somebody say swag? We're going to make sure that we have a quick giveaway. Continue to join us live, but drum roll, please. For the winners from yesterday into today, we have Basif Yusuf and Cody Dean. we will reach out to you via email for those awards, and you'll be earning a Trailblazer hoodie. So be on the lookout for that. We want to thank everybody for sharing their insights today with everybody who tuned in. Thank you again. And we hope that everybody has an amazing day 2 of Mar Dreaming. Be sure to check out the Genius Bar, the attendees tab to connect with others, and we'll see you next time.